Whenever I'm wrong, I admit it. I was wrong about 3D and I was wrong about astral traveling. I'll talk about that in this video. The transdimensional revolution is here, and 3D Earth has fulfilled its purpose. Our planet will ascend. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and I got a comment on the channel, as I often do, and I think it's really important to analyze comments, especially when I think comments represent mindsets I myself had, not even less than a year ago, as well as I think it's mindsets that a lot of people share. We need to be willing to have discussions, because if what I am experiencing, learning, being told is true, everything we know about Earth is going to be completely changing. And I am saying we need to be involved in an interdimensional revolution, to rebel against everything within 3D. But we need to be able to have discussions. We need to be able to analyze our assumptions and our fears. So that's what we're going to do in this video today. So again, I was wrong. Even less than a year ago, I was wrong. So, in one of my most recent videos, proof that 3D world is ending, alien recruits human as their representative to Earth. Somebody responds. Now, you have to think about the mindset of people who, there's all kinds of comments you can leave on a video. You can leave positive comments. There's trolls out there. But when somebody wants to cogently and intelligently have an opposing viewpoint, but they're going to put it into, a small paragraph, we know what we're dealing with is somebody who has a strong emotional attachment to their belief, and whatever it is that you're saying is either threatening their belief or it's pissing them off. Because otherwise, why do you do that? This is a troll. This is an intelligent troll. Now, I have nothing against this person. I'm not going to say their name because I'm not trying to attack them. I can only assume they are not one of my students. I can only assume they are not one of my Patreon subscribers. They're not doing any of the practices. I can also only assume that they're not doing any of the energy practices that I teach. Because if you did, why would you want to pick an intellectual fight with me? I don't understand. I do understand. I was about to say, I don't understand why people go and troll other people's channel. But the truth is, I do understand. So you probably know who you are. And my first recommendation is that you should be teaching. Now, even though I shared your belief less than a year ago, and even though I completely disagree with you, you should be teaching. Because if this is so important to you that you need to make a comment on somebody else's channel, trying to logically argue against them, it means that you have a strong desire to teach. You should be teaching. At the very least, you should be on your channel making videos. You can even, I recommend it. I'm not going to go looking for it. Go onto your channel and make videos about why I'm wrong. Make videos about things that you're passionate about, what you care about. Talk about what you believe. This is the biggest waste of your energy, to troll other people's channel. And what it shows me is that you have self-criticism about your own knowledge, because that's what happens when you go on, when you troll other people's channel and tell them that they're wrong. It means that you think you're wrong. You feel you don't have the right to teach. So instead of wasting your time talking on my channel, go and teach on your channel. I'm dead serious about that. I don't care if you agree with me or not, By doing that, you will be following your true path in life. I was wrong about this, but the thing is, I'm not afraid to test, and I'm not afraid to be wrong at all. In fact, if you can prove me wrong about anything, I'm far more interested in the truth than I am about my beliefs, and I'm far more interested in the truth than I am about protecting my fears, as is evidenced by some of the videos I've been sharing with you. So, as I said, this person shares a similar belief as I did just less than a year ago, but I have a totally, completely viewpoint about it now. So this person says 3D physical, I'll just read the whole thing because you know how I like to analyze each and every thought. This person says 3D physical reality is at the spearhead of consciousness. Assumption. What if we create and build our souls in physical? My $2 says you're way better off, he spells you're wrong, you're way better off making true, authentic connection to the eternal consciousness within than doing invocations, summoning rituals without knowing it. The human body energy system is default set to the astral, without doing years of specific energy chakra cleansing and disconnection from grid works that keep you tethered in the astral. Anytime you do ritual, you're connecting to astral. So a lot of assumptions there. But this person has obviously done a lot of thinking about it. I can't tell what their experience is because it's very intellectual. I don't hear this person talking about their experiences or what they do. But there was obviously something that I said that they didn't agree with, probably were threatened by, because we usually need to fight against things we're threatened by. So let's start with the beginning. 3D physical reality is at the spearhead of consciousness. All right, so that's very poetic sounding, but it could mean a bunch of different things. But again, it is an assumption. And remember, everything in your world, all of your beliefs, your actions are based on your assumptions. Because when you have a base assumption about anything, that's going to determine how you act in the world. His action is, do not do any ritual work. According to him, ritual work summons whatever, spirits, entities. And he doesn't think that you should go into the astral, based on what I'm saying. So his assumption is that 3D physical reality is at the spearhead of consciousness. Now, I'm going to analyze that in a second, but the feeling behind that is that he's saying that 3D physical reality is the most conscious you can be. And you should want to be in that most conscious state. And that is exactly what I used to say. People would come onto the channel and talk about astral traveling, and I would dismiss them. I would tell them that they're indulging in their unconscious fantasies, and that if you really want to become conscious, what you should do is take action in the third dimension towards your soul desire. Now, that is still true. Don't get me wrong. If you're connected astrally, you're going to be connected physically. So that is still true. And you still have to take bold action towards what your soul wants to experience in 3D reality to be a fully conscious person. So I'm in full agreement with that. However, there's a quality statement about this. He's basically saying that if you go into the astral, you're going to be less conscious. That if you want to be the most conscious, avoid the astral. Now, let's take his metaphor of the spearhead of consciousness. This is true. Now, this is still true. 3D is the spearhead of consciousness. But if you have a spear and you look at the point of the spear, what are you looking at? You're looking at the smallest, tiniest point that's actually breaking through. A spear, it penetrates and goes through. And at the very end is this tiny little point. So he doesn't realize it, but he's making my argument for me that that 3D is the tiniest little point, and behind that point is a giant spear that goes back into many different dimensions. So let me just be clear. I now do astral traveling all the time. It's incredibly easy, and in fact, what I used to believe astral travel used to be a lot of hard work. I used to conflate astral traveling with lucid shamanic dream states. That's what I thought they were. And they're not. Astral traveling can be done. You can be sitting there. If you just close your eyes, and if you get any practice in it, you can go anywhere you want and still be completely conscious of your surroundings in 3D, but your astral body can be someplace else, and you can be connecting and learning, all at the same time. It's very, part of shamanic journey. So I agree with him that 3D physical reality is the tiniest little bit. But what he wants to say is that higher dimensions have less consciousness. This is the assumption and safe. He also wants you to believe that if you stay in limited 3D, you'll be safe. Because my first response to his entire thing was, yep, fear of the unknown is a bitch. And his response to me was, agreed, as well as beliefs when we think we know when we really don't. Now, I could talk for a long time about psychological projection. Now, when I say, yep, fear of the unknown is a bitch, that's because I experienced it. And I went through my fears. I sat there, close to sobbing as a giant, unseen 7-foot mantis being touched my crown chakra, and all of these emotions, as well as just my normal everyday 3D fear, was kicking in. So fear of the unknown is a bitch, and that's what I hear in this. He's got a fear of the unknown. He's intellectualized it and spiritualized it. And looking back on it, I did the same thing. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of astral traveling. I just didn't find it to be useful. I thought it was for many people, and people still do. Don't get me wrong. People can still get very lost in their own unconscious fantasies and conflate it or confuse it with spiritual experiences. But I don't think there's any danger in it. He says there's danger in it. So there's a lot of fear here. If he's not in 3D, he's afraid. And I'll just let him do his own speaking for him. He says the human body's energy system is default set to the astral without doing years of, and then he's saying, unless you're like him, without doing years of specific energy chakra cleansing and disconnection from grid works that keep you tethered in the astral. So a lot of fear here. So first, he's making some assumptions about me. Obviously, he hasn't spent a lot of time on my channel. So for him to come on my channel and not know all of the energy practices, he obviously hasn't seen my videos about the chakras, the difference between Kundalini and Chi, and what the chakras and all that stuff is. He just assumes I don't know any better. So very, very presumptuous, and very, if I might say, very egotistical. So to presume that I don't know what I'm talking about when you obviously haven't spent the time to go through my channel to see what I've done, obviously you haven't done the work that I recommend you do. Because if you, at the very least, I don't care if you disagree with me or not, but to assume that I don't have any understanding about energy practices or chakras or anything like that, that shows just deep, deep ignorance of me and my channel. And this is what people tend to do. It is a projection. So what he's projecting here is that he doesn't know anything about specific energy chakra cleansing and disconnection. Now, there's also an assumption here. Remember, everything is an assumption, and his assumptions are driving his beliefs, which are driving his actions. His actions are, don't do any summoning in the astral. Do not summon beings in the astral. That is his conclusion. That is the action he wants you to follow. And that is coming from his assumption, which is that grid works, whatever that means, keep you tethered in the astral. So he has fear. He is saying that in the spiritual realm, you need to be afraid. And I'm saying the opposite. And this is somebody, and again, he doesn't know this. Obviously, he doesn't know this. I was an exorcist. I've looked demons in the face. So the reason why I'm not afraid of the astral or meditation or energy work is because I know that demons can be defeated, and I know how to defeat them. And you can defeat them too. The truth is that any negative entity is not nearly as strong as you if you are a human being, because if you're a human being, you have a soul. Your soul is infinite. And if you are connected to your soul, nothing evil, especially nothing evil spiritually, can touch you. The only way that you can be touched by an evil entity is if you have fear, if you, on the unconscious level, seek out to be abused. And so many people are unconsciously self-abusive. But if you're connected to yourself and connected to your soul, you literally have nothing to fear from any spiritual entity anywhere. He doesn't know that. His assumption is that just assume that when you're in the astral, you're going to get tethered in the grid, whatever that means, and very likely you're going to become a target for something evil. He doesn't believe he can fight off negative entities. And so his suggestion is don't do rituals, especially if you haven't spent years cleansing. So his whole spirituality is based on fear. Because he says right here, he doesn't say anything about do qigong, do chakra work, do mantra ritual. In fact, he says don't do ritual. He thinks every time you chant a mantra, you're invoking some kind of external spirit. So there's just nothing but fear in here. But he's extremely smart and he's intellectualized it. I'm going to guess he smokes pot. I could be wrong. I'm going to guess he smokes a lot of pot. All right, so physical reality is at the spearhead of consciousness. He thinks that means something. It actually means that we are separated in our tiny limited 3D. We're separated from much greater consciousness. He says, what if we create and build our souls in physical? My $2 says you're way better off making true, authentic connection to the eternal consciousness within. Assumption. If you travel astrally and connect with beings of higher dimensions, you will not be making true spiritual connection with yourself. I said something similar. Now, mine didn't have any fear. His has a lot of fear in it. Mine didn't have any fear in it. I just thought that it was a waste of time. I thought that people were just indulging in their unconscious, as many actually do. But I thought, the only thing that was really important was just living out your soul desire in your 3D. Use energy practices, use mantra and meditation to empower yourself in 3D, because I thought that's where, and it's still true, that's where all of your lessons are. That's where you burn through your karma. So that part is true. He's coming from a different place. After, he says, you're way better off making true, authentic connection to the eternal consciousness within than doing invocations, summoning rituals. So I don't know where he's coming from. I'm not a Western magician. This sounds like Western magic. I still don't like Western magic. I think it's convoluted. I think it's overly intellectualized. It doesn't have a connection to... Western magic does not have a continuous connection to pre-Christian spirituality. And so this sounds like Western magic. Western magic, you do these things, you evoke and you invoke, and there's things outside of you and things inside of you. So when he talks about doing invocation, summoning rituals, I don't know what he's talking about in terms of me. Is he talking about because I'm inviting ETs to come and interact with me, I'm doing a summoning ritual? Okay, I guess you could say that's true. But the assumption is, his base assumption is anything that's outside of him is evil. Anything outside of him, anything spiritual is going to be evil and at the demonic, or at the very least is going to confuse you. And I don't have that belief. I know from personal experience, from both sides of this argument, I know from personal experience that the beings of higher dimensions are your teachers. They always have been. So even this guy who thinks that he knows what's going on, the true teaching that happens to him, he's getting them from higher dimensional beings, but they're going to give it to him in ways that he can tolerate, that's not going to frighten him. He's not going to necessarily go through some of the stuff that I've been choosing to go through, which has completely destroyed my understanding of reality. But that's okay. My understanding of reality was incorrect, so it needed to be destroyed. He says the human body energy system is default set to the astral. I don't know what that means. So what does that mean? Does that mean that if you're walking around, you have to be careful because you're going to be pulled into the astral? So he says, without doing years of specific energy chakra cleansing. Why do you need to cleanse your chakras? So there's an assumption there that your chakras are alien implants. So he probably believes something like that. I'm willing to bet. I put it all together. He thinks that ETs are implanting you or have tethered you to your chakras, but the assumption is that they are predatory. The assumption is that anything outside of you, anything in the astral, is predatory and wants to feed off of you. So the base assumption, he and I wouldn't be able to have a conversation because our base assumptions are completely opposite. And according to him, I don't know what I'm talking about. Except that I'm a firm believer that experience is a far better teacher. So I don't give a crap what anybody says. I don't care what's written anywhere. I'm interested in personal experience. I know from personal experience what demons are. I know from personal experience how to defeat them, how to get rid of them, how to keep them at bay. I know from personal experience how to open up the energy meridians in the body. I know, and I proved it with my martial abilities. I know how to open the chakras. And now, even though I've known how to astral travel my whole life, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just thought I was just having a fantasy in my head. But now, having seen, physically proven, and months, daily interaction with higher dimensional beings, I now know that astral travel is probably the most powerful and important tool that we have. So I agree with him that the human body is default set to the astral. But what he says is, because you're default set to the astral, you have to follow me and do years of specific cleansing because you have to be afraid of everything and you have to protect yourself from everything outside of you. And if you don't do that, then you don't know what you're talking about and you're going to be trapped in the astral. So he's got all this. And again, here's a troll. Here's a guy who comes onto my channel, and I don't know how much of this hour and 18-minute video he listens to. He has to say something contrary, and then I go to his channel. There's no videos, no books, no teaching. And so I know, first off, he needs to be teaching. I also know that he's projecting onto me his own stuff. He says, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's an unconscious projection. I'm saying he's afraid, and that's not a projection. That's a relate. I've been afraid of the unknown. I'm not afraid of the unknown anymore. So I can see it, because it takes one to know one. So that's the difference. Projection is you can't see it in yourself, but you think you see it in others. And awareness is when you see in others what you actually have in yourself. So fear of the unknown is a bitch until you work through it. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that. Once again, I was wrong. All those years, if you're still on my channel and I minimized you for astral traveling, if I minimized you for your shamanic visions, again, I still believe it's possible for people to deceive themselves based on their own fears and unconscious agendas and get wrapped up in their unconscious. But there's a lot of people who were legitimately astral traveling, who were legitimately connecting to higher dimensional beings, and I dismissed them. So for those that I was mistaken about, my apologies. And for those of you who are afraid, I understand. I'm here to tell you there's nothing to be afraid of. Absolutely nothing. The only thing that we need to have any fear of is, first and foremost, the deep state sociopathic cabal on this earth, which is seeking to control us which is in the process of creating a false alien invasion that they are going to use if we buy into it, if we give them time. They're going to use that to frighten us into giving all of our power away. And this guy, even though he's a spiritual practitioner, even though he probably believes, same as I do, that there's a deep state, out to get him, his fear of the unknown will actually be used against him if, in fact, that false alien invasion comes to Earth. He will be one of the first people to say, see, we have to be careful of those dimensional beings or those aliens, anything outside of us, and he's going to give away his all of his freedom to the state. So we need to address our fears. I don't need you to go do what I did and face your fears to that extent. You're welcome to. You got nothing to be afraid of. But I'm not telling people to do anything they're not comfortable with. But you at the very least need to be aware of your fear. And we need to start educating people. This mindset here is the exact mindset in the UFO community that says that ETs are abducting people. And they're not. Human beings are pretending to be aliens and abducting people. Higher dimensional extraterrestrials are not doing anything other than what they've been doing since before human beings were human. These are the guardian angels. These are the ascended masters. These are the bodhisattvas. These are the higher selves. These are the spirit guides. These are the elves. These are the fae. The higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings are the beings that have been guiding us spiritually. They've been giving us the true spiritual paths that we have. Yoga, mantra, qigong, all of the energy practices, guess where they came from? They came from extraterrestrials from higher dimensions who channeled them to humans. So there's nothing to be afraid of. But that fear is what is, when you have an emotional attachment to protect your fear, that means that you will continue to choose to project, and you will continue to choose to make false conclusions that the deep state can use to control you. So, I have nothing against this individual, but he does represent a very common mindset in the world, which I hope anybody who wants to learn, I'm happy to share with you my experience. I have knowledge based on experience, and I can prove it. It's not just theory. And I invite you to do the same for yourself. If you don't believe anything that I'm saying, do all the stuff that I suggest. Do it, physically do it. Do the 90-day challenge. Find out if you don't become more powerful, more awake, and more aware. Do CE5. You're afraid to do it alone? Do it in a group. Find out for yourself what happens when you, without fear, reach through the dimensional boundary. You're going to find your family. You're going to find the teachers that you've been working with your whole life. You just didn't know it. Time to wake up, time to drop the ignorance, and time to drop the fear. And that's what I tend to do on this channel. So again, this channel is about doing the work. Go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. It's going to cost you less than getting your Starbucks coffee that you get every day through the drive-thru. It's the most powerful triune energy practice on the planet in the history of the human race. Kundalini, Chi, and the lightning center of the heart. Prove me wrong, do it for 90 days and tell me that nothing happened. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com to find all of my books. I've just published a new book called Extra Terrestrials Are Coming to Earth. Read that. It'll soon be out as a audiobook if you want to wait for that. And of course, the most powerful energy practice on the planet, which destroys negativity, including evil spirits, maoshan.thunderwizard.com. If you don't want to come out of pocket for whatever reason, you're broke or you're just chintzy, then go to the channel, the Thunder Wizard DOTCOM YouTube channel page. Go to the playlists and do any of the free practices, including the Huul breath, Huul, go Google it, Huul breath, or the Awakening of the Immortals. Two most powerful practices I give away for free. You have no excuse. If you're going to come on my channel and you're going to talk smack about anything, especially if you're going to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, you owe it to yourself to at least do the exercises that I teach, so you can find out whether or not I have some knowledge based on experience. Otherwise, if I think that it's going to be beneficial for other people, I'm going to pull your diapers down in front of the rest of the world. And of course, I'm going to do it with love, because I want all of us, including this guy. I have nothing against him. I don't think he's going to listen to me because he's got an emotional attachment about, whatever, and now especially I've challenged him. But everybody, I want everybody to wake up. I want everybody to be experiencing what I'm experiencing. Everything I do is just the desire to be helpful and to help people be the happiest, the most prosperous, and the most successful. And for all of us to be ready when the shift comes. Hopefully it'll come soon. But until then, let's engage in the interdimensional revolution. More about that as time goes on in later videos. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I will talk to you soon.